on Business Incorporated today. Ghana and UAE seal visa-free deal. Debt crisis in focus ahead of elections in Zambia. And in Malawi, maize prices rise by 21%. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Ladi Williams. First, let's have the intraday market numbers. In Africa, most markets we track are in the green territory at intraday. The NGX index was up 0.06%, while South Africa's benchmark index rose 0.44% at intraday. And over to the Middle East, where trading was mostly mixed. Abu Dhabi's main index rose significantly by almost 1%, and Dubai's index gained marginally by 0.02%. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia and Qatar's index were down 0.25% and 0.12% each. And European stocks start the week mostly negative as investors await key U.S. inflation data slated for next week. Let's get details now from Conrad. Hello, Conrad.
Good afternoon, Ladi. Thanks for having me back on Channels TV. It's an honor.
Great to have you. Well, on the financial markets in Europe, trading this week will be dominated by earning reports by different companies. How has the earning season been so far?
It's been gigantic, I have to say, Ladi. The recovery of earnings compared to the same period last year has been much quicker and much stronger than anyone on the markets had anticipated. In the United States, 90% of the companies managed to report better earnings than the anticipation on the market had been. Here in Europe, it's around about 70% of the companies which topped analysts' expectations. The top runners are technology firms. For example, Siemens, a large German technology conglomerate, which managed to increase its profit forecast so far 3 times already in the course of this year. Also very strong, all companies that profited from Corona lockdowns, like online retailers like Zalando. Deutsche Post, the logistics firm, managed to post very, very strong earnings. But also the German automakers. Volkswagen, BMW, and Daimler combined posted a net profit of 27 billion euros in the first half of this year. That's significantly higher than, of course, the dismal first 2 quarters of 2020.
Right, and Germany's exporters have managed to increase trading volumes for the 14th time in a row. That's a surprising boom, given the worldwide shortage of semiconductors. How long can this continue?
Very good question. Many economists had forecast that these numbers for June, which were published today, already should show traces of a break because of this semiconductor shortage. Turns out the German exporters are doing all they can to deliver and to increase their numbers so that now the exports are higher than they had been before the Corona lockdowns started in the spring of last year. How long can this continue? Well, the chip makers are currently all working on an increase of capacities. They're all building new factories so that they will be able to deliver to the high demand of semiconductors. Here in Germany, that's, for example, companies like Infineon or Bosch. The increased capacities should be available by the end of this year, early next year. And that's when, the problems are expected to be over. It will also have a positive effect on prices, of course. If you increase capacities, then this should have an impact on prices. It should at least stabilize the prices and not, allow them to continue to climb.
All right, let's look at some listings coming up now. A company from Australia, Vulcan Energy, is heading to Frankfurt to get a listing on the stock exchange. Where you're standing right now, what's the plan?
Well, the plan is to dig for lithium. That's a raw material you need for all these batteries, for the millions of electric cars that are going to be built in the future. Lithium is a very important part of that. For the moment, German and European automakers import lithium mostly from Australia, from Chile, and also from Argentina. But now this Australian company has come up with resources found below the River Rhine. The Rhine River is one of the largest rivers here in Europe. It's a mythical place, in particular for Germany. You know, we have this opera conductor in the 19th century, Wagner, who wrote those stories about, you know, this treasure, the gold treasure on the bottom of the Rhine River. Now lithium is expected to be found below the Rhine River, and this company has found a way how to tap these resources. Of course, in order to do this, Vulcan Energy needs a lot of money, and this is why the company, which is at the moment only listed in Australia, is coming to Frankfurt to have a listing here. They want to tap European, they want to tap German investors for money so that they have enough to finance this huge project, which is happening, or which is supposed to happen in the future. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what the environmentalists say, because this is probably having a huge impact on the environment, on the you know, animals and the plants around about the River Rhine, an important topic here in Germany. Germans love to protect the environment, but it's an exciting story, of course.
Yeah, and it's actually good to protect the environment. Anyway, Conrad, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ladi.
All right, let's head over to the UK now to see what's happening in London with Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Great to have you. Well, Deliveroo is back in the news again as a German rival delivery hero takes a 5% stake. Tell us about this deal.
Good afternoon, Laddie. Yeah, really interesting story. And it comes at a time where online food delivery firms from across the world have been consolidating because, of course, during the lockdown, they've seen a surge in growth. So we have seen lots of companies from across the world merging. And this is the latest from Delivery Hero. They have bought a stake in Deliveroo for 5%. At the moment, we haven't heard anything from Deliveroo or Delivery Hero, but Deliveroo are going to be providing a trading update later in the week. So hopefully there'll be some comment about this within their memo. Delivery Hero already own a large stake in several food delivery firms from across the world, including Just Eat Takeaway, which is Europe's biggest. In fact, in 2015, Hungry House, which is probably a familiar name for our viewers in the UK, that was owned by Delivery Hero, but it was purchased by Just Eat Takeaway for £200 million. Now, they do compete with Deliveroo in some markets, including Hong Kong, Singapore, and in some places around the Middle East, but not in the UK. Now, even though there was a bit of a flop when Deliveroo decided to float on the London Stock Exchange in March, they're still doing pretty well here. Their only major competitor is Uber Eats, which is why there is speculation of why the German firm would want to get a stake in Deliveroo. But it's cheered investors. Deliveroo's share price has risen 6% since the announcement was made this morning, and this is the largest surge they've seen in their share price since their float in March.
Right, as long as investors are happy there. But a financial services platform, Hargreaves Lansdown, is leading the fallers, down about 10%. How's the market looking?
Yeah, not a great day to a start of a very moody week in London. When the weather's bad, you can see that the markets will also be bad. So the losses that we saw at early morning trading have been extended at intraday. The FTSE All-Share is down 0.39%. The FTSE 100 also down at 0.41%. And the domestic market, the FTSE 250, down as well at 0.21%. In the currencies market, the British pound is up, though, up on the US dollar by 0.16%, up on the euro by 0.03%, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.01%. As you said, Hargreaves Lansdown, the financial services platform operator, that's the biggest blue chip faller after reporting 4-year profits that didn't cheer investors.
All right, let's look at some other stories now. A serious fraud office has launched an investigation into entrepreneur Gavin Woodhouse. What are you hearing about this investigation?
Yeah, not a great day for the care home entrepreneur Gavin Woodhouse. The Serious Fraud Office have opened a pretty huge investigation. The UK's anti-corruption agency says it's investigating suspected fraud and money laundering in relation to Woodhouse and individuals and companies associated with him. This goes back to concerns surrounding business conducted between 2013 and 2019. And in fact, the probe has come from some investigative journalism conducted by The Guardian, which is a left-wing newspaper here in the UK, and ITN News. Apparently, during this period, millions of pounds, in fact, over £300 million, was raised by investors, and Woodhouse was promising pretty eye-watering dividends of up to 10%. Investors never got that money, and in particular £16 million was to be put towards building 4 new care homes. Only one of those care homes were built, and apparently the infrastructure is pretty shoddy. I don't think they've got any elderly patients in there at the moment, and the rest of the money was channeled, this is all obviously allegations, to a consulting firm that is believed to be owned by Woodhouse, and then the money has disappeared. Also as well, there seems to be lots of black holes when it comes to their accounting. So yes, Gavin Woodhouse has been named as facing a serious probe. And of course, once the Serious Fraud Office gets you, you could be facing a very long prison sentence. Hopefully we'll be updating the show when we receive more information about the case.
Right. Well, I guess we'll keep tracking that story. Anyway, Juliana, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laddie.
And over to Asia Pacific now. Markets traded mostly high on Monday, with indexes in Australia, Hong Kong, and the Chinese mainland posting gains. Australia's benchmark ASX 200 rose 0.16% as investors kept an eye on the COVID situation in the country. South Korea, the Kospi index, recovered most of its earlier losses and traded near flat, while the Hong Kong Hang Seng index rose 0.97%. Meanwhile, Chinese mainland shares traded mixed as the Shanghai Composite was up 0.56%, while the Shenzhen component was fractionally lower. And over to Wall Street now. Stock futures traded lower in the early trade as the Dow Jones Industrial Average notched a record close Friday following a stronger than expected jobs report. Futures tied to the Dow fell 88 points, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 futures were both fractionally lower. The moves in futures trading came after the Dow rose 0.32% to close at an all-time high of 35,208.51 points, while the S&P 500 rose 0.17% to reach its own record close of 4,436.52 points. Meanwhile, the NASDAQ Composite bucked the trend, dipping 0.14%. All 3 major indexes ended the week higher and saw their second positive week in 3. The Labor Department jobs report Friday showed the U.S. economy added 943,000 jobs in July, more than the 845,000 new jobs expected last month. Also, the employment rate dropped by 5.4%, below the expectation of 5.7%. And our news from West Africa. Ghanaians can now enter the United Arab Emirates without hassle. And this is the outcome of the visa-free deal between both nations. Parliament approved the visa waiver agreement for diplomatic service, special and ordinary passport holders. The agreement comprises structured visa regimes for both countries and does not impose obligations to admit people who are considered to be of questionable character. Well, joining us now to give us details about this deal and the impact on trade and businesses, we have George Wyeth, for business editor, Joy TV. Great to have you. Thank you for joining us, George. All right, so
Hi, great to have you. And the name is Riafe. I could see you
Weafe,
struggling to pronounce it.
Weafe. Thank you so much. Thank you. So please,
Thank you so much, sir.
first of all, how are Ghanaians responding to this news?
I don't think that previously Ghanaians have been struggling to travel to the UAE countries or Dubai in terms of getting to that country. What this has done is more of formalizing it and making it less stressful. You had most of the airlines who attached as more of a package. If you're traveling to the UAE, as you get your ticket, automatically you get a visa on arrival. So it wasn't that previously most Ghanaians were struggling to travel to that country, and therefore this will come as a big relief. But it will just simplify the process, or more, if I can use the word, de-stress the challenge that most Ghanaian businesses were having traveling to that country. If you know that most Ghanaians connect to the Far East via Emirates Airlines, and therefore this will actually take off the stress. If, for instance, it takes you more days to get to that place, now it means that it will be less stressful in traveling to these countries. So let's more look at it as taking the stress off in trying to get to those countries than previously been a big challenge for businesses who want to travel to that country. If you look at trade between Ghana and the UAE, it's been increasing significantly over the past years. And therefore, this will make it easier that a businessman can stand up today and say that I'm going to UAE or even connecting to the farm.
So we can expect a good impact for businesses and trade between both countries, basically. Hello, George. All right. Seems we lost George there. Anyway, George Rafe is a business editor with Joy TV. Anyway, we'll get more stories from the African continent after the break. Do stay with us. This is Business Incorporated. Welcome back. You're still watching Business Incorporated live from Channels Television. Well, to our African stories now, Zambia's president, Edgar Lungu, will seek to fend off a perennial opposition challenger in a vote on Thursday that may be decided by frustrated young voters amid economic turmoil and a pending bailout for one of Africa's most indebted nations. Let's bring in Matt Kindigan now, Associate Practice Lead, Sub-Saharan Africa, for Front of You now to discuss the economic impact. Hello, Matt. Great to have you.
Hello. Thanks for having me on the program today.
Yeah. So how close do you expect the outcome of Thursday's election to be?
Yes, certainly. So the election is always expected to be close. So we were, expecting it to be a closely run race. And there are some signs that Hichilema, the opposition candidate, may be gaining some ground, but overall, I would say it's too close to call. And so, the big question is, what does this mean for businesses? What does a tightly run race with uncertainty mean for the business environment? So broadly, we are expecting political risk to rise and escalate over the coming week or so, over the next couple of months as well. There are lots of parallels with 2015 and the 2016 elections. This is because since the race is so close, the declared outcome is likely to be challenged by whoever loses. So we probably expect both sides to declare victory. And in any event, if both sides are declaring victory, if there is a challenge to the election, supporters on both sides are likely to get quite upset. So there is increased risk of disruptive protests. We could see suppression of the media. And so there is sort of elevated risk of some kind of disruption after the election.
Right. So what will the election mean for Zambia's debt management and fiscal policy?
Certainly. So Zambia was one of the first countries globally to default as a result of coronavirus, as a result of the pandemic. What we've seen is that the Zambian government has avoided reaching a deal with the IMF. It really has postponed any kind of serious negotiation until after the election. So we are expecting there to be some change in policy and approach. Whoever wins the election is likely to increase engagement with the IMF, but the outcome of the election will affect the pace of the negotiations. So if Hichilema is elected, we could see a more rapid agreement reached with the IMF. But even if Mr. Lungu is re-elected, we probably will see some sort of agreement reached before the end of the year. Under either scenario, so if, depending on, irrespective of who wins the election and irrespective of whether there is an IMF agreement or not, public finances in Zambia will remain under pressure. We are expecting to see spending cuts that have been avoided until the election. We are also expecting to see tax rises to occur over the course of the year. This is because Zambia's public finances are just in such a weak state that under any scenario, the government will be forced to consolidate public finances. So certainly much weaker government spending, high taxes, both direct and indirect taxes, certainly a much weaker public spending environment and austerity is likely to emerge over the next.
Okay, let's look at the commodities now. How is the economy expected to perform, over the coming year, given the recent rising copper prices? Okay, looks like Matt is frozen there. Anyway, Matt Kindiger is Associate Practice Lead, Frontier View, Sub-Saharan Africa. Well, we'll see if we can get Matt back to finish his thought there. But now, moving on to our other stories now. Of the 128 markets monitored, only 9 markets had maize sold at the minimum farm gate of 150 per kilogram, with lowest prices offered in Chitipa, in the northern region of the northern region. 84 kilograms per kg or 200 per 50 kg bag. In Zambia, Tanzania, South Africa, Uganda, and Kenya, maize was selling at a minimum of 7,500 shillings, 8,000 shillings, and 8,500 shillings per 50 kilogram bag. In that order, Grain Traders Association of Malawi say, despite the good prices in the region, exporting now is not an option. And now to the global oil markets. Oil prices fell nearly 2% today, extending last week's steep losses on the back of rising U.S. dollar and concerns that new pandemic curbs in Asia, especially China, may set back the global recovery in fuel demand. Curbs include flight cancellations, warnings by 46 cities against travel, and limits on public transport and taxi services in 144 of the worst-hit areas. Brent crude futures slid by $1.27 to $69.43 a barrel after having slumped 6% last week, the biggest weekly loss in about 4 months. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell $1.29 to $66.99 a barrel, having slumped nearly 7% last week, the steepest weekly decline in 9 months. Over to the metals market now. Gold fell as much as 4.4% to more than a 4-month low early on Monday as robust U.S. jobs data stoked concerns of a sooner-than-expected interest rate hike, which could increase the opportunity cost of holding non-interest bearing bullion. Spot gold was down 1.4%, pairing earlier losses, while U.S. gold futures also slipped 1.4%. Silver slumped about 7.5%, hitting more than 8-month low of $22.50 per ounce earlier in the session. Other precious metals, such as platinum, fell 0.9%, while palladium traded flat. And that's Business Incorporated for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.